Kendall, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Okay, we'll start with Brian Yanta. Brian, I think you're just logging on online, so I'll give you a second. Dave Wegman.
Present.
Thank you. Derek Bays.
Here.
Thank you. Doris Cooksey.
Here.
Thank you, ma'am. Debbie Reed.
Present.
Thank you. Nefi Garza.
Present.
Thank you. Kara Tackett. I see you. I'm going to go ahead and count you. Thank you, Kara. Jeff Carroll.
Present.
Sorry, present.
I got you, Kara. Robert Reyna.
Present.
Thank you. John Beasley. Suzanne Scott. Here. Thank you.
Here, sorry.
Jose Reyes.
Present.
Thank you. Dave Mock.
Haley Hernandez for Dave Mock.
Thanks, Haley. And Steve Klaus.
Here.
Thank you, Steve. Marty Kelly.
Here.
Thank you. James Blount.
Present.
Thank you. Jamie McCool. Thanks, Jamie. Jared Bowen.
Present.
Thank you. Chris Robles.
Here. Here, sorry about that.
Thank you. I have you, Chris. Anita Machiavello.
Here.
Thank you. Chair, we have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Kendall. Do we have any public comments?
There are no public comments. Brian, I see that your hand's up and I have marked you as present.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the previous Region 12 meeting. They should be in your packet. Are there any comments or corrections that anybody has noted? Give you all a chance to review. And if there are none, can I get a motion to approve?
Dave Wegman move to approve.
And a second?
Debbie Reed, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, thank you all. Next item is communications from the Texas Water Development Board. Anita, are you on?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. I just have a couple updates. First, just a friendly reminder that on December 6th, we sent out the submission requirements for the regional flood plans. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know or send me an email. I also want to clarify that submission guidance went out with a typo on the submission date. I believe it's dated January 7th, but I just want to clarify and confirm that it is still January 10th. Lastly, a friendly reminder to RFPGs that your bylaws, unless changed last year, may still require a 30-day notice to RFPG members regarding officer elections. Written notice of the meeting to select officers should be sent to all members of the RFPG by the current secretary 30 days prior to the meeting. We, TWDB, are interpreting this to be an email to RFPG members, not posting for public view 30 days in advance.
All right, thank you,
If
Anita.
there are
there
no
any
questions?
Yep, that was my question. If anybody had any questions or comments.
So, Derek, does that change? Because I know, was that the last meeting when we did the switch of the...
Kendall, that was October, right?
When we did the... Gosh, I can't remember.
Correct. Yes, we shuffled executive committee in October.
Oh.
However, according to bylaws, we still have to hold elections annually at the first meeting. So if we want to, The motion can be to keep the slate as is. We don't have to run through every officer itself. We can see how that goes at our first planning group meeting of 2023. But we do have to, according to the bylaws, do it again.
But I guess based on what Anita's saying regarding the notice, would that be any different than what we've done before, or does it just have to come from the secretary versus you?
Oh, it's just an internal notice, so it's just an email that'll go to the planning group members. It's not a posting notice the same way, but it will have to come from Mr. Wegman.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that's the only change is for that. When we do the officer elections at that first meeting, Dave will have to send all of us a notice that that is coming up. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the only change.
Yes, Dave will talk.
And that would have to be 30 days, and that Dave's email would have to go out 30 days prior.
Correct.
So the earliest we could do it in January would be, the 19th. Right? Or whenever. Yes. All right. Chair report, next item. 2 items I just wanted to touch on. First is for general awareness, the River Authority will start public meetings in January on the draft floodplain maps that we're issuing. We've been briefing elected officials, staff from city and county have already been briefed, and we'll continue to work through all the elected official briefings. If you're interested in the dates and times that we currently have scheduled, Kendall can get those to you. It's a 3-4 month process. I don't remember the exact specifics off the top of my head, but there's a number of meetings throughout the region that cover all of the city council districts as well as county precincts. So we did our best to get full, very comprehensive coverage of the impacted areas. And then the next item under the chair report, today is Mr. Klaus's last day on the board, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to say whatever he feels like, if anything at all.
All right. Well, first, I appreciate it. I've learned a lot. This was not I'm in the water business, but this was not my forte. So certainly getting to learn how the processes that we use and the amount of information we have or don't have was very enlightening for me overall. I really appreciate working with you guys. I would have to say that as we've worked through this process and tried to make it as equitable as we possibly could and balancing all those issues, I really think the public comments and the equitability, y'all have represented the region very well in the best public interest overall. So it's been my pleasure. We've nominated in my place for y'all's consideration Donovan Burton. Donovan also works at the San Antonio Water System for any of y'all. He's in charge of our water resources overall. So that will be another item you have to consider in the near future here. But I very much appreciate the opportunity to spend time with y'all.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody want to say anything?
Well, I'll just say I've always enjoyed working with Steve. I mean, I think he brings such a wonderful perspective to any board he sits on. But I've really, I think that through this process, because he's not necessarily in the flood business all the time, I think he always brought a very interesting perspective. So thank you for that. And thank you for everything you've done for SAWS over the years. I mean, my gosh, we would be nowhere with our water utility if it wasn't for Steve Klaus. So I really appreciate your leadership so much.
38 years, it's time to let somebody else have all that fun. And once we get past the freeze that's coming up this week, then I'll feel good about it and hopefully ride into the sunset.
No, just to echo Suzanne, in my relatively short time here, both at Region 12 and at the River Authority, I just want to say thank you, Steve. You've been great to work with, both on this committee, but also on the River Authority and building that relationship and Otia Dam or whatever it might be. But I appreciate it and just wish you the best as you move forward in this next chapter. All right, our next item
Derek,
is...
can I just ask you a quick question about your flood maps?
Sure.
Would there be any way that Sarah could do a presentation maybe at an upcoming flood planning meeting on those new maps?
Absolutely. we will work that for January or February. Next item, review public comments on the draft San Antonio Regional Flood Plan. So I'm going to turn this to Ron. The technical committee did meet and go through this, but I didn't talk about the technical committee work because it is the main item on our agenda today. So I'm going to turn it to Ron. I will say you have a copy. All the members have a copy of the draft plan, very thick. In front of you, it has track changes. And then there should be a cover sheet that Kendall put together that has significant edits to try to make it a little bit easier to sort through as we go through this. So with that, Ron, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and thank you, Kendall, for the cheat sheet. I think it's very helpful for everyone to be able to navigate this bigger document that you have here. We were asked by the technical committee to provide the tracked changes in the draft, and that's what you have before you. So I'm going to start with the agenda packet, what you have in the agenda packet. There's all the comments that we received, either public comment and their response, the comments, and we received several letters from organizations, and we responded to each one of their comments. We reviewed all of these comments in the technical committee meeting and went through it with that group. Of these, there was really only one major change that we had to apply to the draft plan, and then there are the Texas Water Development Board comments that I presented to you at the last meeting, and we've gone through those comments. We've addressed the majority of those at this time. We're still working on some of the ones that are geodatabase related. Some of those are taking a little bit of time refining that, but things are coming along good. That affects some of the tables, but it's an output based on the comments that the formatting that the Water Development Board is asking, and for us to fill out a little bit more information. Other than that, I think we're in great shape for our January 10th submittal. And I know I'm putting a lot of information in front of you at one time. And so if I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have on any of these comments or the draft.
Ron, I would suggest if you could, maybe let's start with the significant edits and just kind of touch on each of those.
Absolutely.
So, starting with chapter 1, the page 1-27, if we could, there's only 2, 4, 5, 7, 8 of those. And I think that as people work through that, they may come up with a few other questions after that.
Awesome. I don't remember all of these I don't know these exact comments offhand, so I'll be working with Ludovine to look these up real quick. The first comment is from the Water Development Board is, and it's on existing infrastructure, and it talks about go into more detail and describe how low water crossings were identified. And we added low water crossings were all evaluated. Some were moved to more in line with the center line and road center line, and some were removed that did not correlate with the road crossings. If you remember early on, one of the comments, you could see the dots that kind of came in as low water crossings. So we made sure that if it was the data set that we got from TNRIS, we made sure that if it corresponded with the floodplain or was actually on a road, and we did a better job. We went into more detail on how we described that. So that was the major comment there.
Yeah, I would just keep going unless there are any questions, just work
Yeah.
through the significance.
Yeah, this one, on this one, the wrong table was referenced. We updated the reference on the table, and then we also added that the map is also included in that. So that's everything for chapter 1. Chapter 2, first one, existing conditions. Yeah, I think one of they asked for us to provide a table of all of the models that were available, and quite frankly, that'd be how many tables, Aaron? I mean, that table would be massive. So we came back with the language that you see. These models are located on the Sarah's digital data and D2MR website. Give that where H&H models and data, and then we talk about how they're we have full coverage. So just send them there because adding that table would have been very extensive, and having it in the text, I don't think that would have added a lot of value just to show hundreds and hundreds of models with just random names of streams. So that was on page 2-3, and then the future conditions, vulnerability on page 237.
Chair, a quick question for Ron. I certainly appreciate that. I think it's a smart idea to include the website, and I don't think the River Authority's website is going to change anytime soon. But did you think about maybe mentioning the fact that these models are in a certain format? Because if it's somebody from the public that may not be familiar with HEC-RAS or HEC-HMS or whatever other model was built, should we mention that? I'm not seeing in here, but should we mention that it's in a particular format? Because if I'm not an engineer and I want to take a look at the model, I have to know the software to be able to access it. It's not just as simple as, well, I'm just going to download it and I'll see the model.
We can add that.
I think
I think
mention the majority of them are in HEC-RAS format, and then just leave it at that.
That's fine. That's
just
an easy.
Just a thought.
But yeah, it doesn't hurt to add a sentence. You're right. I mean, I think very few people will be accessing it via this document to that, but good point.
That was the same comment as they made the same comment in the future floodplain, and so they wanted to know how we, what models did we use for the future floodplain, and so we gave the same, we added the same text about using the D2MR, which we will also add that the modeling type too.
Sorry, I'm next comment. Yeah.
We added in both of those, and now I'm going to the next on vulnerability.
So this was the same. They just wanted more explanation, right? And we had already explained it existing. So
I got you. So this they were asking for more explanation of how we calculated this future condition social vulnerability. We use the same process that we did in existing condition, so we use a similar description in that. So those are the significant comments in chapter 2. Chapter 3.
we just needed to update the numbering.
Oh, it was just updating the numbering of the goals in the table. So that was done. That was the significant comments in chapter 3. No major in chapter 4. Chapter 5. 520.
This was the National Wildlife Federation comment. It's under chapter 5.1.1, process to identify FME, FMP,
No,
and
it's in
FMS.
5.1.3. Initial screening results.
All right, so note we have a page numbering issue on the final.
Okay.
At least whatever printed out, because it's actually chapter 5, but if you look at it, it started renumbering again with chapter 3, which is why we were confused.
That's a
Not that I'm not easily confused in general, but that's why.
yeah. The printing is always fun when it comes to page numbers, as we all know. So
Yeah, this one's this comment, remember the 5th category 1 studies.
oh, okay. So in chapter 5, one of the comments was, how are we coordinating with the Water Development Board 5th study and making sure that we're not overlapping? And just so you know, Ludovine and I have been in contact with the consultant that's doing that work. We've talked to them. They are not in a place right now where they can provide us FMEs, FMPs, or FMSs. However, they do want to get something in the amendment, and so we don't have anything planned in that area. So we're just going to wait on them in Karnes County to tell us what they come up with in the 5th, and that language was added in the text as such.
Ron, I should probably know this, but what's a 5th study?
The flood infrastructure funding.
Thank you.
Yes, that is correct.
This comment was not captured on the cheat sheet. So this one is on page 5-10. And this was a comment from the National Wildlife Federation, the only comment from the technical committee.
Oh, okay. That and that'll be we actually answer that, and it's on page.
It's under the section nature-based features, 5.1.1.
What are you talking about? They're moving to the next one. They're not going to do anything that's not on there. Yeah. Don't add things.
Oh.
So it'd be in the screwed up page numbering system, it'd be 3-32.
And all this was updating a table number, just making sure that they got the table 5.5. That was everything in chapter 5. Oh yeah, it was also adding a column to that table describing how no negative impacts was determined. Well, because the comment actually, Suzanne, was the table's not found because we referenced table 5.4. We referenced the wrong table in the draft. And so we actually had the right table in there, but they asked us to give a little bit more definition on the no negative impact. So next one's this one. 9-17.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand. So we only have a table on the FMPs, no table on the FMPs or FMSs. So those are what in the appendix?
Yes, they're in the table of the section. Yeah, in one of the appendices of the tables.
We saw that I think I brought it back. I mean, we saw that last meeting, right? This big table, this thing?
Yes. Yeah, there was a whole table of different. There's the required table that goes along with FMPs, FMEs, and FMSs. This was a summary table that was added in the
For
text.
just FMPs.
Yes.
So the ones that y'all were going back and looking at to see what you would be able to put into this January 10th, were those FMPs? You said you had a few that you were going to go back. We have some that are not going to go until July, right?
That's correct.
But then you said there was a few that you were going to go back in and look at for this submittal.
Yes, those were mostly on the FME side of things, or FMP. If we had enough of the information, we drug them up into the FME. There may have been one or two in that. And then if we couldn't get some of it, if we couldn't get all of the information for an FMP, I know there was one or two that was pushed down. So.
Okay, so then our favorite project, Troy, it's still an FME, right?
This table was added to summarize the FMPs and to add that information for the
No negative input.
Thank you. This was just to add those FMPs to try to make it easy for somebody who's looking at funding a project or who is looking at other sources of funding that may be available to help find those. And then the no adverse impact, that was the clarification. We actually had in the database too, we had something mislabeled. And so there was some confusion about how we had evaluated no adverse impact and or whether we had evaluated, which we did. But we're clarifying that through this addition to this table.
The last one is a funding comment.
Yeah, it's just that, the comment was to consider providing the data that's the basis of the 1.5. So we just made the comment.
So this may be a Anita question, but I just want to make sure that, so in the Water Development Board's legislative priorities that they recently put out after their last board meeting, they mentioned a request to put more money in for the flood infrastructure fund. That's one of their requests for the legislature. And in that, they also talk about you have to be in the plan to be eligible for funding. And I just want to make sure that that applies to FMPs, FMEs, and FMSs, not just FMPs. So I don't know. I just want some clarity to make sure that it's not just funding these projects, it's also funding some of the studies. Based on that, you have to be in the plan.
That's completely how I understand it. And so.
Yeah, likewise, but I would ask Anita to weigh in, please.
Sure, this is James Bronikowski from the Water Development Board. I can weigh in on this one.
All right, thanks, James.
Sure. Yes, y'all are correct. This actually goes back to Senate Bill 7, which was passed at the same time that SB 8 was passed that set up the Regional Flood Planning Group. SB 7 set up the Flood Infrastructure Fund, and one of the items included in that legislation was that once the state flood plan is adopted by the Water Development Board in 2024, from that point on, any use of the fifth or related funding would have to be included in the state flood plan. Up until that point, we are interpreting that to mean that it needs to be in the regional flood plan once those are adopted. But yes, you're correct that applies to all types of projects, FMEs, FMSs, and FMPs.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, Mr. Chair, that goes through all the significant comments that were identified. I would say that we did address, I mentioned that there was several letters sent in by multiple organizations from the Parks and Wildlife, National Wildlife Federation, and those comments were general. They were sent to several of the planning groups, and we answered a lot of those comments. I think were directed at the Water Development Board and their process, and so we addressed those as such. Mr. Chair, is there anything you think we need to bring up from that? I think those were pretty straightforward.
I think they were pretty straightforward. I think, I would refer the committee members to the, not the plan for a quicker reference, but your actual meeting packet, because it lists the comments, how we received them, and then what the response would be. So that may be the quickest way for folks, if you have a question, to take a look at those. I think there was only one comment, Ron, that resulted in a change. I think that is probably one to just touch on briefly, if you could.
There was a comment we made. I think, and they made the comment that we had made a statement about nature-based solutions not having significant impact to the 100-year floodplain, and we changed that to retrofitting projects, making sure that the retrofit type projects are the ones that tend not to have significant. It's when you get to plan them out and when you get to show the major areas that are having those impacts. So that was the one update that we made.
National Wildlife Federation.
510. Yes, I believe that is correct. 5.1.1 process to identify FME, FMP, and FMS, and under nature-based features.
But it's mislabeled.
So what page on mislabeled?
That's what I'm looking for.
Oh,
310, they said.
3-10 of chapter 5, mislabeled.
Yeah, because it's under structural. That discussion is under structural FMPs and non-structural FMPs, and so that conversation was we had, and that was, and I need to make sure that we add it. I'll go back in, and Troy reminded me. It's retrofitting nature-based solutions in urban settings. And so I need to go back and add urban settings to that.
I think the point that they're trying to make, is that it is, if planned right, obviously any project, has to be planned and designed accordingly. But I think what they're trying to get to is that it is a nature-based solutions like they're saying, nature-based solutions can provide significant benefits to communities and can provide risk reduction to the 1% annual chance flood. You're just, you're saying here that that while these types of solutions can provide some flood control benefits, retrofitting nature-based solutions into I know, but I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of are we discounting the value of nature-based solutions in the way that it's stated here? Can you? Because if it's planned right or
That,
designed
that's
right,
certainly not the intent. That's what we're trying
Yeah.
to clarify exactly, is to say that in the right setting it can, but as a rule in an urbanized setting, what everybody has seen across the country and largely across the world too, is that there's just not enough room for the water. And so how do we,
but I think it's the
how do we
site
say that?
conditions. It's, I
Well,
mean,
right. So how do we say that without elaborating on a 2-page long paragraph? That's what we're trying to get to, is just how do we make it clear that we're saying there are benefits to it.
Significant flood risk to the 1% annual chance flood hazards, primarily due to site or
Scale.
Yeah.
Scale.
Site limitations.
I would be very.
So site limitations rather than, okay.
Well, but this is, I mean, I think what you're it's painting nature-based solutions in that it's really not it's not the option. And I'm not saying it's an option in all cases. I'm not trying to overstate it, because it, just like any infrastructure, it has to be designed for the site and the benefits that it's trying to get. But I think that just to be sensitive to what the NWF is stating here, I mean, would you not agree with the statement where they say here, nature-based, just as a statement, nature-based solutions can provide significant benefits to communities and can provide risk reduction to the 1% annual chance flood if site conditions are appropriate? Or, I mean, I'm just taking their sentence out of that to say if site conditions are appropriate or allow for it, or whatever the right words would be. Is that just that sentence?
I think I can, I mean,
We can work on that.
I mean, if the planning group is comfortable with that.
First, making it just about retrofitting. I mean, they're not even talking about retrofitting. They're just wanting to have a stronger statement that it can provide benefit if the site conditions allow it or would support it.
Yeah, I would be comfortable flipping it like Suzanne is saying, and it turns it into more of a affirmative statement with the clarification of when site conditions permit.
Yeah.
So I would be okay with that, but I would appreciate any discussion or feedback from the rest of the group. Oh,
This
Kara.
is Kara. I'm comfortable with that too. I think that's a reasonable, something along the lines of when site conditions support, nature-based solutions can provide these benefits. Why not make a positive statement out of that versus narrowing it?
We'll take that section and define it more as the comment.
All right. So I think that was, the main comment where we made a change based on feedback received either from the public or from other sources. But I guess I would now open it up to the group for general discussion, anything else they wanted to ask a consultant team about, or just general comments or questions.
This is Debbie Reed, and I just kind of wanted to make a comment from the technical team about reviewing the comments. And as Ron alluded to, a lot of them were directed to the Texas Water Development Board. But I think that it was important that every comment was addressed. I think we did a good job without putting our feet in our mouth or making promises that may not be able to be realized. I think it was a good job. Appreciate it.
Well, and we did take care also to make sure that all the comments were included verbatim and would be pushed forward to Water Development Board. So we didn't summarize or, discount or anything. They all are going forward in some form or fashion.
That is correct. We have to noted. That is correct. We do have to provide responses to the Texas Water Development Board comments, and we will include the comments that we receive from public comment as well as from the agency comment as well. Exactly what you see in the packet we'll include as part of our response to public comments and Water Development Board comments.
Dave, I think you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, for those who haven't read through those comments, a lot of the letters from Texas Parks and Wildlife and the various groups were somewhat of a global nature, and didn't necessarily merit a detailed response. You certainly could have jumped off on any one of those things and gotten into the weeds, but I think sometimes a simpler response is sufficient to say, yes, we understand your situation, we'll consider it.
And passing it forward, or upward, I should say.
I agree, and I think to build off of what Dave said is, I think a lot of the comments were praising the group for what we had done and some of the things that were they had a lot of the same comments that we put in our chapter 8 about things we'd like to see move forward as a planning group and as a region. So I thought that was, that came through loud and clear. There were several comments that I think were redundant and came through loud and clear. And so I think that, we made the comment, they agreed with the comment, provided it to several different planning groups. So I think the Water Development Board is going to get that in a strong message. And so I think that was the intent of a lot of those comments.
Ron, would you mind just bringing up the Great Springs and where we are on that? That's kind of, people may be wondering, because it's not really a comment per se.
Yes, their comment was to add in they had an FME that they were proposing, and they at this time was kind of decided by the group that there was a lot of information, a lot to work through, and we will continue to work through them, refine them, find them a sponsor, go through the process, but we will include that as part of the July amendment.
And that's kind of interesting, Ron, for anybody who didn't see Commissioner's Court last week. The Great Springs folks did make a presentation at that Commissioner's Court. And I walked away from that being somewhat unsure of what they were asking for, because they weren't specifically asking for money. They were just asking for general Commissioner's Court support for their cause for connectivity with the trail systems and whatnot. And they are just in place to be facilitators. So I'm not really sure from a Texas Water Development Board standpoint who would sponsor such a project that crosses multiple regions. Yeah. So there's some work to be done and to be thought about on that, because obviously the Great Springs folks are making their way and hitting different political entities, trying to gain support for their cause, which I don't disagree with their cause.
They made a presentation recently at the MPO TAC meeting as well. So yeah, I think they're going around to any entity to speak right now.
And it was also a comment to multiple regions, and so we're going to have to coordinate that on a regional scale. There was some comments in technical committee. Does it make sense for a state sponsor instead of a local sponsor? So we'll be reaching out and providing them some guidance, kind of what feedback from what we took from Region 12, and hopefully they'll get that from 10 or 11 and whatever other regions. And but we will continue to work with them through the amendment process, Debbie.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, Neffy.
I do have a comment. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the hard work that you guys and the committees have put in. I'm just really impressed with all the work that we've accomplished. I tell you, I think for our region, I think we're much better forward with this plan. Really excited to go forth, and certainly cannot overemphasize how impressed I am with our consultant team, who's done an amazing job putting a lot of this thing together. Just very impressed with the work, and hopefully this will be the springboard so that future projects can come forward. Communities see the benefit of this and really become a part of this. I'm really excited to see this process forward, and I just wanted to express my gratitude to not only the committees and certainly and chair and the executive team, but also the consultants. So thank you guys. Thank you all.
Thanks, Neffy. So anything else? Ron?
So that I guess that wraps up our major comments. We will continue to be, like I mentioned, continue to be, with your approval today, we will continue to be moving forward for our January 10th submittal. I know we're going to have minor comments along the way, cleaning up some page numbering, right? So I know we're going to have that along the way. We have our technical writing team at HCR that's going to do a final sweep of this. So as we approve this, please note that these are the major edits that we're going to, and that's because that's kind of what we were limited to, right? We were limited to the only major edits could come from public comment, public or agency comment, and so that's what we addressed. If it didn't come from HDR and the consulting team did not make any changes, any major changes other than that. There's editing, there's minor edits that we're still working on, but that's what we have left. And so that as you go through the approval, just keep that in mind. There's still, there's some still minor changes, but again, that's not part. We're only allowed to change the major changes based on public comment. So that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Suzanne.
So just talk me through a little bit about, okay, we submit this on for the January 10th, and this is considered the final regional plan. And then between now, after we adopt this, then between now and July, we can make these amendments to those various projects that we've been talking about.
That is correct.
And then that can be an amended plan. And then that's what's going to go forward for eventual adoption and consolidation into the state flood plan that will be approved in September of 24.
That is correct.
So what happens what is the Water Development Board doing sort of between now and July with these reports? Are they giving like reports on, the what they all say? I mean, I know that Ream had done an initial kind of cursory look from the draft as to the number of projects, how much all of them add up to, et cetera, et cetera. Are they going to do that again so that information is available during the legislative session as they're thinking about decisions relative to the flood infrastructure fund and refund and putting additional funds into that? Are they going to use this for that purpose? And then what happens then? I'm just trying to get a sense of the use of this document between now and then, now and when we do the amended document.
So James is online and he can kick me if I say anything wrong here, but I think from what I've been told and my understanding, this document, yes. So they came back and they made comments to all the regions. So we know that's going to affect the number of FMPs, FMEs, and FMSs, just how they move around into which bucket they come out of right now. So I know that I'm sure that there will be a final number of each one of the category FMXs and a dollar amount anticipated for each. I think also this is about the time when the rubber's going to meet the road with their ranking process, right? So I think, right, we've all been waiting on that. So they're going to take, and a lot of the comments were for the geodatabases that we're working on. And so all of these geodatabases from 15 different regions have to be put into one. So, I mean, you can imagine the amount of data that they're going to have. And so if, one thing's different, they don't merge up right. So they had to make a lot of comments to a lot of geodatabases. So they're going to be compiling data and trying to get that in so that everything's built so they can easily extract that information, so they can provide the information, pull the projects and all of that, plus also start implementing their ranking process. That's how I see them moving forward. I guess if I'm way off base, maybe James can chime in, but that's where I understand they're going with it.
So
no, you're spot on there.
So they'll do the ranking process.
That is correct.
We don't know what what criteria they're using for ranking.
Correct. We do know the category that they're using, right? They provided, these are the things that we may use. We will use these, nothing else, but we don't know in which aspect. We don't know what kind of weighting that anything is going to get. There would be no way for us to guess how a ranking would come out. They were still working on the tool that they were going to use. So whether, you have to think that loss of life, social vulnerability, water supply, nature-based solutions, all of those are going to get extra points. And so that was what was important when we went through and identified the FMEs, FMPs, and FMSs, was trying to be able to check all the boxes.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Any further comments, discussion, questions? Okay, so I'm going to ask somebody to make a motion to adopt the final regional flood plan and allow the technical consultants to make appropriate edits as discussed today and any non-substantive changes.
I motion to adopt the plan
As I stated.
as stated by the chair.
Thanks, Debbie. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Dave Wegman, second.
All right. Thank you, Dave. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Congratulations. We have now approved our draft plan. Major step. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate Dave pointing out Ron's faults like that.
They won't quit, Debbie. They won't.
No, we're never quitting. So the next item is the regional liaison update. So Doris, if you're on, anything to report?
Yeah, Region 11, I guess they're kind of pretty much doing the same things we are. The last meeting, they went through their plan, but they did not finalize it like we did. They're going to meet again on January 4th to hopefully, finalize their draft. And I think they're going to take a group picture and they meet in person. Let's see, the other thing is they spent a good bit of time talking about legislative activities and things that they would like to see done. And, some of the things that had to do, there was a drainage district there. Do we have any drainage districts in our basin?
Well, yeah, the River Authority would be the closest thing.
Okay.
I don't know county drainage districts.
Okay. Well, they had a couple of issues that I thought one was kind of interesting, and they said that they had they wanted to comment that funding should be allowed for areas that I think typically are not identified as flooded. And he went on to say that they've had area like homes flooded, like 250 homes flooded, but FEMA only shows one house being flooded. And it's because of the issue with insurance, right? If you don't have insurance, FEMA never hears from you. So FEMA doesn't really have accurate numbers of where homes and things are being flooded. So they wanted that to be addressed in the legislature. They also have some issues where they put in retention structures to help with flooding for property owners, and those property owners then don't want to maintain them, so it's a big headache, and they don't have funding. They don't get a lot of funds, so they also wanted to have the legislature consider allowing funding or some funding mechanism for drainage districts and the other applicants. They would be, the wording was going to be that they'd be secondary to some of the larger entities like river authorities and, like cities that typically get a lot of the money. But these are those areas that fall outside those typical areas. They want to be able to get some funding. So those were a couple of things that I thought were interesting from their meeting. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. Those are the main things.
Yeah, and this is Annalisa Peace, and I guess I'm the liaison also with this group. So specifically what we had asked was we spent a lot of time, like Doris said, talking about legislative and administrative and regulatory recommendations, and included, I think, 5 more to the list we already had. But we specifically asked that that regional drainage districts be allowed to apply for CDBG funding.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right, thank you both. Is Dave on for a liaison update? Oh, it's Haley. Haley, do you have an update for us?
Unfortunately, I do not have an update for you guys today. I'll make sure Dave gives you one at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, Kendall, are there any public comments that have come in since we started the meeting?
No one has signed up to speak.
All right, thank you. So next item is discussion of date and potential agenda items for the next meeting. I think the recommendation was to take January off and schedule a meeting in February for the technical committee, as well as the regional flood planning group itself. So I'll throw that out there for consideration and discussion. First off, is everybody okay with taking January off? I see some different thumbs. Okay. So with that in mind, if you could take a look and give any thought to February dates for technical and the regional flood planning group. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay.
Well, let's start looking at the first week in February then. I mean,
So the first full week would be the 6th through the 10th.
I can do all afternoons, it looks like.
Yeah,
Except for Friday, no Friday afternoon meetings.
I mean, that Thursday afternoon would work for me for technical. I can't do Monday or Wednesday because of committees.
I'm good.
If we do the 9th, can we do it early?
Like 1:30?
Yeah, 1. I just have to be at UTSA by 4.
Okay. So technical, y'all good with that? 1 o'clock on Thursday, February 9th?
Yes.
Generally speaking, okay. So then the next would be full regional group meeting either the following week, the week of the 13th, or the week of the 20th.
He said 2 weeks potentially between.
Mm-hmm.
How's the 21st look? Afternoon of the 21st?
That's Commissioner's Court. Depends on how early.
Okay, sorry.
If you want to do the full 2 weeks, you can go back to the 23rd.
23rd? Why not?
How about the afternoon, the 22nd? I know it's Ash Wednesday, but is that a problem?
No, we'll take the boardroom back. So the 23rd is an option. We can host.
What time?
I'm good all day.
Any preferences? I'm clear.
Later is better.
Earlier is better? Later is better. Do you
3?
anticipate a heavy meeting, Ron? Any major?
For the planning group? No, it'll be, they're going to be pretty light. From the technical committees are going to be pretty heavy. But I think the planning groups are going to be lighter. I think that there would be other things that we wanted on the agenda, whether it be Aaron giving an update or somebody else. We bring in other people in to give updates.
So that would be 3 o'clock. How does 3 o'clock sound on Thursday, February 23rd?
Wonderful.
General, okay?
Okay, you said 3 o'clock? Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Suzanne, did you say
That's for me.
I have a conflict, but it's okay. I mean, I can get some, it's fine. I can get somebody else to attend.
If we move it up or back, does that help you at all?
My meeting's at 3, so I don't know if that helps you. So it's fine. I can,
What if we went 2:30 and virtually? Would that, so you could make your other?
but I would only have 30 minutes for this meeting.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. Just whatever. whatever works for everybody, it's fine. I don't schedule it around me. It's fine.
Okay. All right. So 3 o'clock, the 23rd of February, and any agenda items. I know we'd like the floodplain update. That was the request for the River Authority team on the draft maps. Anything else? Yes. With Donovan being nominated for Steve's position. Well, if you think of any other agenda items, please let Kendall know, or things you'd like updates or briefings on, you can let me know too. But other than that, I think we are good. I would like to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, good holidays, and travel safe. Watch the weather coming in later this week. It's not going to be very warm. And with that, could I ask for a motion and a second to adjourn?
Debbie Reed, make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded, Dave Wegman.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.